Hello, and welcome to Cheers to Fears, where we take horror films and turn them into drinking games. We're your two hosts. I'm Alex.
And I'm Tucker. Today we will be expanding on our collection of the Conjuring Universe drinking games, with Annabelle, made in 2014, directed by John R. Leonetti, and written by Gary Dauberman. Leonetti is mainly a cinematographer who has worked on such projects as Insidious 1 and 2, The Conjuring, and Dead Silence. Noteworthy movies he has directed are Wish Upon and Mortal Kombat Annihilation, so you could consider him to be much better at his job as a cinematographer.
On the other hand, Dauberman was also the writer for movies such as the new It movies, The Nun, and Annabelle Creation. He has also directed and was a writer for Annabelle Comes Home.
Back on topic to Annabelle, however, it is about a husband and pregnant wife who undergo a horrific event which leads to a doll in their possession to become, possessed. This doll then goes on to terrorize the wife, Mia, and her newborn daughter, Leo. The evil doll is not only after their life, but as well as their souls.
On to spoilers. If you have not seen Annabelle yet, this is your opportunity to pause the video, play the drinking game for yourself, and come back in time for the drink count and discussion. Speaking of the drink count, we will post the rules on screen now and carry on with our in-depth reading of the rules.
Of course, the first rule we have for any horror movie is when somebody dies, you take a sip. This rule gave us a total of 5 sips, which to be honest, was more than we were expecting.
Second, as per tradition, is when somebody yells, cries, or screams, take a sip bud. This rule gave us 22 drinks.
Third, we have a rule where if you see a jump scare, you must take a drink. With this rule in place, it gave us an additional 16 sips.
As for most rules in the Conjuring universe, if you see a crucifix you drink is still going to be featured as one of our rules in this drinking game. In this movie, we spotted 10 crucifixes. This is probably going to be one of the lowest counts for the Conjuring universe, since it is not as religious as some of the other films we will watch.
Another staple for any Conjuring universe movie is whenever a door closes or opens on its own, you take a drink, my friend. This was another low number for this movie, but there's probably going to be other movies in the Conjuring universe that do not have as high of a count either. The total for this rule ended up being 7.
Our sixth rule, and one that is probably going to stick around for most Annabelle movies, is the rule where you drink if you see the Annabelle doll. In the first installment of the Annabelle trilogy, we saw Annabelle 18 different times.
Next is the rule where if a note is shown or anything else that is presumably written by Annabelle, you have to take a sip. For this rule, we only counted 6 times where we saw a note or writing that was made by the sinister doll.
Rule number 8 gave us, 8 drinks. This rule is that you must have a drink whenever the word doll is said.
I like your dolls.
Our next rule also gave us 8 drinks. This rule is you take a sip when supernatural events happen when John, the husband, is not around. This rule should remind us to spend time with our ladies and try to be better husbands out there, gentlemen.
Our final rule for this drinking game is when you hear the word father, you can do yourself a favor and have a sip. Father is said 15 times throughout the movie, so therefore we had 15 more drinks to add on to our total number of drinks.
Well, that does it for the rules for the first Annabelle movie. When we equaled up all of the rules, we ended up with a total of 115 drinks. For reference, if you were taking 30 sips per standard 12-ounce can, you would end up polishing off almost 4 cans. So do you want to tell us a little bit about the drinking to this movie?
Yeah, sure. So I guess the main problem with this is a lot of the drinking rules were very scene relative. So I guess, for example, there were scenes for deaths. So there was 4 deaths of the 5, all in one scene. Notes, a lot of the notes were back to back to back to back. Like there was 4 pictures in one scene. I think the total number was 6 maybe. In saying that, there was another scene where the priest was having a conversation and he just kept on saying doll, 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 doll. And then also the same scenes, they said father a lot because he was kind of the focal point of the conversation. So in saying that, there was a lot of drinking in very small patches of time where you'd use the rule kind of once and then almost forget about it for the rest of the movie.
Right. Speaking of rules, there's one rule that we actually were going to include, which was anytime Leo was said.
Mm-hmm.
But then when we looked into IMDb script, it said that it was said a total of 89 times. So we scrapped that rule because we probably might have died if we included that.
Yeah,
And so we just kind of scrapped that one instead and replaced it with another one.
That's almost a full drinking game if you just drink every time somebody says Leah.
Yeah,
in
that's
retrospective, yeah.
That's 4 drinks less than our Quiet Place drinking game.
Oh yeah.
So that would have been brutal. Other than that, the drinking was pretty well balanced. Like there was the shitty husband, the jump scares, and they did happen like scene specific, but it wasn't too bad of clusters. Overall, it kind of paced decently throughout the movie.
Oh yeah. I guess speaking of shitty husband John and Mia as well, those names were actually taken from the names of the original actors in Rosemary's Baby, Mia Farrow and John Cassavetes.
Yeah, I kind of found that pretty interesting that they did use the names of the actors that played the characters in Rosemary's Baby. It was kind of a cool little nod, because there was a lot of comparisons, I guess, between Annabelle and Rosemary's Baby.
Oh yeah, you can compare a lot, just like how this is a watered down version of Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, pretty much.
So yeah, Rosemary's Baby was just kind of better in every aspect for the most part. So I guess one example is Mia Farrow. Her performance in Rosemary's Baby was absolutely phenomenal. But Mia from Annabelle was fine, but definitely nothing like in comparison.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
Like, she was okay, but Mia Farrow in Rosemary's Baby, just the emotion, and you really got to feel what she was feeling throughout the movie, and she was just top notch in that movie.
Just a lot of her acting scenes are so good in that movie, and especially with just you can even see the fear in her eyes in a lot of the scene, just on every part. It's so good.
Yeah. The other problem that I had with this movie is the baby came out way too early. Instead of it being more ambiguous to Annabelle wanted the baby to die in the womb, as she tried to kill the baby in the popcorn fire scene.
Yeah.
Or if she wanted to kill the baby when it was alive.
Oh yeah, no, that's a big problem with the film. So, in my opinion, a better climax would have been if Annabelle's plan the whole time was to break down Mia in her pregnancy, and then once the child was born, try to take the child for her own, try to get its soul, try to do whatever. So in saying that, do you know one other movie where the baby came out a lot later on in the movie?
Well, yeah, Rosemary's Baby, which we've been talking about for this whole discussion so far. In that movie, the baby came out like close to the end of the movie, and it was way more effective in terms of the climax. And
yeah, like you could actually tell when the climax point was kind of getting there. When the baby would come out, you would know, oh, this is the climax. This is where it's going to get good. This is where we're going to get a lot of answers.
Yeah, and it like did a nice job of building up to that scene and making the audience wait in anticipation for what was going to happen and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. I guess another fun fact about the movie is the apartment was actually owned at one point by Ellen DeGeneres. She used to live there.
Oh, well, I guess, do you think it's scarier for Ellen DeGeneres to haunt you or Annabelle the doll?
Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially based on what you hear recently about
Oh, yeah. She treats her people horribly. Annabelle just kind of spooks you a little bit and asks for a soul.
Yeah, I mean, a soul is basically what Ellen's asking for anyways. But
oh, yeah. She treats people like they don't have a soul. Annabelle treats you with respect.
Yeah. And another interesting fact for this movie is that Lin Shaye, who was in Insidious, was considered for the part of Evelyn in Annabelle.
Yeah, Lin Shaye would have actually been a great part for Evelyn. You can kind of see her being the motherly figure. I could definitely see her kind of being the person to sacrifice herself for somebody else, being really selfless. Yeah. So I feel like she would have been a great casting role for it, but obviously they saw different things. Like, I didn't hate the actor that played Evelyn by any means, but obviously people have bias towards certain actors that are kind of more famous, especially with Lin Shaye just being so famous in the horror movie genre right now.
So I guess we'll get into some of the problems with Annabelle.
Yeah.
Starting off with the blood, I think it looked pretty fake in this movie. Like, the blood coming from the priest's head looked like somebody spilled chocolate syrup out of it.
Oh, yeah. No, there was not a lot of blood in this movie, and the blood looked horrendous to me.
Yeah. And, like, I don't know. We've seen other movies that we talked about, like in Saw 7, where the blood just looked pink. But this movie just looked, I don't know, it looked way too dark, I guess.
Yeah, it looked super dark.
Yeah.
It might have just been because of the lighting, and a lot of it happened outside in like the nighttime, but it just made it look so bad.
Yeah. And on top of that, the plot seemingly goes nowhere.
Yeah.
Like, the murders happen, they have a baby, move houses, and then Annabelle does spooky things for the next hour. It really doesn't seem like there was any form of the story progressing other than that.
Yeah, so I guess the main thing is there was kind of no connection with anyone. Like, the only real relationships you see is just the relationship that Mia forms with Evelyn throughout the movie, and you can, like, barely see that. It's just pretty much Mia and a baby in a room for almost an hour because the husband's never there. And even when the husband's there, he's very passive, I feel, to a lot of the movie.
Yeah, and that leads us to John, who is the husband. So yeah, he's always gone.
My husband's coming back.
And like, he tries to be supportive in a way, but at the same time you're hesitant of him. Kind of doesn't necessarily seem that sincere, or doesn't really believe her that much. And it comes across, I don't know if it's just the movie or if that he's just doing a good job of portraying that.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me of Sinatra's relationship with Mia Farrow, how he wanted her to be a stay-at-home wife while she wanted to act in Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the other main problem I have with John is you can kind of see that he always wants to pull back a little bit. So I guess one example is at the very end of the movie where Mia's about to sacrifice herself for her young daughter. John, at the same time, is just like, oh, Leah, don't do it. He genuinely doesn't want her to do it. But at the same time, he doesn't have, like, a thought of him wanting to do it either. Like, he's just like, oh, yeah, I don't really care about my child as much as I do my wife. And I feel like that's just not a good approach as a parent, nor as really a husband, honestly.
Yeah.
He's just not willing to sacrifice himself for anybody else.
Yeah.
He just seems kind of selfish in that sense.
Whereas most parents would tell you that they would give their life over their kids any day.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So clearly he's not the best husband or father. I guess one good thing that did happen in this movie is the jump scares. I felt like they were pretty good too.
Oh yeah, I feel like they were a lot better than I was definitely anticipating, especially on this watch around. So I guess, for example, the director this time was a cinematographer, so he probably played a big role in the jump scares being better. So one jump scare that got me kind of off guard in this movie was, it was kind of set up earlier on in the movie where there was fighting going on upstairs in one of the other apartments. And you'd kind of hear shouting and then door slam, but in this instance, Annabelle was kind of fully taking over, and you'd hear, I think it was like shouting or footsteps coming from upstairs, and I was honestly expecting the young daughter, Leah, to kind of start like screaming or something after that, but instead you just kind of seen like the big demon's face just kind of appear.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, I liked it. It caught me off guard, I'll say that much.
And that's what you can ask for as a jump scare. I know a lot of people don't like jump scares, but I'm kind of a fan of them.
Oh yeah, I like them. I'm very desensitized to jump scares though, so for something to catch me off guard, good for that, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. And that might be why I like them. Just if they're done right, they're pretty effective.
Oh yeah, if they're done right, they're good. Yeah.
So on a side note, just a little point that we wanted to make. It was very clear that Father Perez, the priest, was hitting on Mia.
Or at the very least, it seemed like it for sure.
It seemed like it.
So it's just like, oh yeah, sure, take a picture of my child. I was like, no, I want you in the picture too.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just so weird.
Yeah. With that being said, what were your overall thoughts on the film?
As I said this, I'll say it again. It was just a worse Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah.
I feel like just a lot of things were either too rushed or not fast enough, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Like, I don't know, the movie just, it didn't do a great job of setting things up. It kind of rushed into things. But when it did have things that they were kind of setting up, they spent too much time on it, which made you kind of fell flat.
Exactly.
And
it's just like Annabelle was just kind of scaring her in the apartment for like a solid hour.
Yeah, exactly.
They spent way too much time on it. They should have really tried to milk the baby coming out of the womb and all this, the baby being born.
Yeah.
But the baby was born way too quick, I think.
Yeah. And overall the movie was okay. Like, it was enjoyable to watch the first time.
Yeah.
But I would say that if you are going to watch this movie, one of the better ways to enjoy it is making a drinking game out of it.
Oh yeah. Or just watch Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah, before that, you'll have a much better time with Rosemary's Baby.
And that brings us to the Darwin Awards ceremony, where we award one not-so-lucky nominee the Darwin Award. This award goes to a character who made a stupid decision in the movie that resulted in them getting killed, someone else getting killed, or simply resulting in something bad happening that could have been easily avoided. This award can also be given to a character that is just plain dumb. Here are the nominees.
First up, we have John Form. for leaving the door to the house unlocked, allowing Annabelle Higgins to just walk through as she pleases, nearly getting his wife and unborn child killed in the process. On top of that, after their child is born, he is very inattentive to his family, being so focused on his work, which also leads to Mia trying to kill herself to save their child. If John doesn't get the Darwin Award, he might very well get the Husband of the Year award, that's for sure.
Our second and final nominee is Annabelle Higgins for killing herself and then allowing her spirit to possess a doll, rather than almost anything else. She could have possessed a human, a vehicle, or even just a gun, which she could have easily used to intimidate or threaten people with. But no, she uses a fucking doll.
And the winner is John Form. This week, the award really could have gone either way, but we felt that John was slightly more deserving because of his poor family relationships and just overall not taking the situation seriously. So I guess he is walking away with the Darwin Award after all. But let's be honest, he's still walking away with the Husband of the Year award as well. Congrats, John. You joined Jeff Denlin from Saw 3 and 4 as the only double award winner at Cheers to Fears.
And with that being said, we hope you enjoyed our expansion of the Conjuring Universe drinking games with Annabelle. If you end up playing the games alongside the movie, or have any feedback or suggestions, let us know in the comments below.
Make sure to like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss next episode where we drink to and review, you guessed it, Annabelle Creation. To see our drinking games for The Conjuring 3, click the top video on your right. To see a playlist including all of our drinking games, click the box right below it. Thanks for tuning in, and this is us saying, Cheers to Fears.